But because it went so far beyond what we knew we could work on our own, there was a point early on with Third Day we went, oh, okay, got you, Lord.
Yeah.
This ain't about us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm gonna look at this camera of the Iris Global Green Room. Today, I'm very excited because I have someone that I have been listening to for years. I know many of you guys have been as well. Mr. Mac Powell from Third Day.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Hey, so great to be here.
How are you? I am gonna try to get all of my nerves out early on. Forgive me. This is honestly, I think, I don't really get nervous, but you have been such a backdrop of my salvation story, your music, your art, and it really is an honor to have you on, that you would take time. I sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for saying that.
And I've recently become friends with people that you know and love very well, and the fact that they opened up this door just means the world to me. So thank you so much for coming on. Well,
if they've they've spoken well of you, and so here I am.
Well,
so we'll see how it goes.
It's gonna go. It's downhill from here. But yeah. So one of the reasons why I'm super excited to have you on is I got saved in '99, and at that, I think it was right then, you were one of the first albums I ever got. So I was a late 90s guy, Pearl Jam, Nirvana,
love it.
Tool. I was a big Tool fan. I almost got a third eye tattooed here. Yeah, I was deep.
You were a fan.
I was. Maynard James Keenan was, one of my favorite artists. Yeah. And hearing the sound that you guys made, it so connected me with the music that I loved. Yeah. But this strong faith. I remember getting into conversations with older church ladies, be like, you need to listen to this album. And they're like, that's just Christian genre. And I was like, no, they're worshiping like the heart after the Lord comes out. And it really marked me. I had a moment driving from Canada into America with my family. We were on, I think, Christmas vacation. And I just remember sitting in the back of my parents' minivan weeping to show me your glory.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And still, as I look back at these moments that I've had with the Lord, your voice has been in the backdrop. So thank you so much. You did an album. What is it? You scream out Portland, Maine. Do you believe it? Which I forget the song, but it's I was there in Portland, Maine.
That was probably Creed.
Yeah, Creed.
Yeah, which is a Rich Mullins song that we covered. And funny enough, I just ran into minutes ago before getting here, I ran into the A&R guy for Rich Mullins. For those of you who don't know Rich Mullins, please go check out his music. Amazing. My favorite writer of all time. And unfortunately, he passed away 20 years ago. But the guy, A&R guy, the guy who works at the label, who helps him come up with the songs and all that stuff, I just ran into, and we were sharing Rich Mullins stories. And that song, Creed, wasn't our song, but we made it our song. Wow. And so many people loved it, including yourself. And thanks for saying that.
So to be honest, I actually don't know too much about your early days, what got you in. What I would like to try to attempt to do today is not dig into everything that every podcaster asks you or every interview that you've been on. But can you give maybe some of my audience that doesn't know Third Day, how did it start? How did it begin? Yeah. Where did everything? Yeah.
Well, I'll make a long story.
Please.
Not so long, hopefully not too long. I grew up in Alabama, lived in this little town called Clanton, right in the middle of the state. And I tell people often, if you were to throw a dart at the map of Alabama, which many people have done, and it lands right in the middle of the state, that's where I'm from. Lived on a, dirt road in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I say I grew up in Clanton, but I really grew up 20 minutes outside of that. Was the big town.
Yep.
I grew up way outside of that. Both my parents played guitar and sang, acoustic guitar and sang, and nothing professional, but just I was always around music. And even though I'm an 80s kid, I grew up listening to a lot of 60s and 70s music. So any of that old school singer-songwriter stuff like James Taylor and Jim Croce. My dad's favorite band was Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
So all that kind of really classic rock stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to because of my parents. And that really kind of transferred over into, what I make.
Yeah.
And moved to Atlanta when I was a sophomore in high school, which was a long, long time ago.
Where in Atlanta?
Marietta, just a little bit northwest of Atlanta. And I grew up in church, grew up singing in choir, gave my life to the Lord at a very early age. I was around 8 or 9 years old. And I can remember almost clear as day, maybe clear as last week.
Yeah.
I went to this little church. It was packed out at 100 people, maybe on Christmas and Easter. My grandparents went there, cousins went there. It's where my dad grew up going to church. It was called Providence Baptist Church number 2.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know where the first one went.
Yeah.
But Providence Baptist Church number 2, it's still there.
Looks maybe a little bit like this church out here, or some small. Yeah.
This is a big church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking small.
Yeah, it's real small. And the pastor one Sunday, I'd heard, many sermons through the years, but one Sunday something clicked and I understood what he was talking about. I understood the simple gospel.
Yeah.
That even at 8 or 9 years old, I forget exactly how old I was, that I was a sinner, that I needed to be saved, and there was nothing I could do to save myself.
Wow.
I will never read the Bible enough, go to church enough, give enough money to charity, do enough missions.
Yeah.
I would never do enough to win my, way to heaven. And it sounds sometimes like, oh gosh, that's bad news, but it's actually good news. It's the good news, the great news, that we don't have to do it ourselves, that Jesus did it for us. Yeah. And his sacrifice, I'm sorry, I'm preaching.
You
right
do whatever
now.
You want, man. You're good.
Just in case anybody hasn't heard the gospel, that Jesus dying on a cross for us to take our place, that was enough, and receiving that gift that God has to offer us. So fast forward through middle school, high school, I moved to Atlanta, and was still going to church, but just really once I got into high school, it was kind of like I did my own thing.
Yeah.
Still believed in God, but I wasn't growing, never grew in my faith. Just, I called it that fire insurance, where I'm not going to go to hell, I'm good,
right?
And was never really discipled, anything like that. When I reached my senior year of high school, about a month before I graduated, I was a wreck. I just was lost, and I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do in life. I wasn't a good student. I was kind of lower income family. We didn't have money for me to go to college, even if I could have gone to college.
I get that.
My dad was in the Army. I knew I didn't want to do that. I wasn't cut out for that. So I didn't have any real skills to get a real job. So I thought, what am I going to do? I was scared to death. And I started praying, and I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, and that somebody at church had said, you should read the book of Romans sometime. And I thought to myself, cool, where is that in the Bible? And so I opened up my Bible, get the dust off, and I look at the, what's the beginning where it tells you where all the books are, not index, but the whatever. And so I see Romans. Oh, that's in the New Testament. Okay, cool. Flip over, start reading. Now, what's funny now, when I read Romans now, in fact, I'm almost done reading it through the second time in about a week.
Okay.
I'm going, how in the world did I ever get this as a dumb 18-year-old? I can't understand it now.
It's a tough one.
Romans is a deep book. It's full of great stuff, but I have to reread it. It's really deep. And I'm going, it was only the Holy Spirit that helped me to know anything about what it was saying.
Yeah.
And I was reminded, this was supposed to be a short story.
You're fine, dude. Listen, I love this. Keep going.
I was reminded by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
About that decision I made when I was a kid,
to
follow Jesus and to surrender to him. And the Lord helped me realize, you're not really surrendered to me. And I knew that he kind of was keeping his end of the bargain and saving me.
Was there a verse or like a specific passage?
No, I think there was that probably the Romans road that goes through, Romans, just being reminded of that.
Yeah.
And I said, Lord, I am lost and I need you. And I know that so I'm at a place where I don't know if that really was my salvation moment, or I really actually believe I was saved when I was 8, but just didn't, kind of remain there as an 8-year-old spiritually for a long time. I think that was the moment that God said, okay, now you're ready. It's kind of like Moses, and I would never compare myself to Moses, but Moses was, he lived 120 years.
Yeah.
So 40 years, he's got the best of life and this upbringing and the best food and teaching and all this stuff in his life. And then all of a sudden, at 40 years old,
right,
he goes to the desert.
Yeah.
And we often think about the desert as we don't want to be there. But Moses met his wife. He had his children. He came to God in the desert. He learned a new occupation. And he actually grew so much from 40 to 80 years old. And then at 80 years old, that's when God said, okay, now you're ready.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of that in that when I was 18, God said, now you're ready, or start getting ready.
Yeah.
I think is what he was saying to me. And so I was in a band. I'd been in a couple of rock bands, garage bands.
Yeah. It was the season of some of the best garage bands out there.
And we had the coolest name. We were called Nuclear Hoedown.
Okay. I had one called Red Eyed Tetra. About as equally
You win.
perfect.
You win. I thought that Nuclear Hoedown was good, but no,
Nuclear
you win.
Hoedown.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd always, growing up with my parents and loving music, I'd always wanted to be in a band.
Right.
And now I was finally in one, and God said, I want you to quit. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And we were terrible, but we thought we had these hopes and dreams of what the band could become.
Yeah.
And when you have these dreams all the time in your life and throughout your life, and then all of a sudden you're not achieving it, but you're seeing the start of it, and God says, don't want you to do that. It's really hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
But I was so committed because of that, sitting down on my edge of my bed and giving my life to Jesus again, and reading the scripture and wanting to follow God. I said, okay, God, all right, if you want me to give it up, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I told you I'm going to surrender everything. Here you go. This thing, my hopes and my dreams, I surrender them to you. Do what you're going to do. Send me off to West Africa or whatever. And so I go to Mark Lee. Mark and I were in marching band together. We were friends in high school, and we were in Nuclear Hoedown together. He came up with that name, not me.
Are there any recordings of this Nuclear Hoedown available?
Lord, I hope not.
Oh. Listen, internet, go find. Yeah,
I could probably find a couple of birthday parties we played, maybe, but on an old videotape. But anyway, I went to Mark and I said, hey, I'm going to quit. And he said, why? We're starting to take off now. We did a show outside of Atlanta. My uncle has a place in North Carolina we could go play. Right. And so, I said, listen, I'm giving my life to Jesus. I am hanging out in places I don't need to be hanging out. Singing about things I don't need to be singing about. I want to just surrender to God. And he said, why don't we start a Christian band? And I said, cool, what's that? I had no idea. I didn't know anything about Christian music. And I just knew I wanted to sing about Jesus. Yeah. And so then I started listening to some stuff. Some friends would give me tapes. Back then it was tapes. I remember. And I would go, man, I had no idea this is a thing. People are like actually doing this.
What sort of Christian bands? Like what?
Well, the first two artists that I ever heard that I can remember were Michael W. Smith and a band called The Choir. The Choir was a band from California. They weren't really a Christian band, but they were Christians. I just loved that there was like these elements of faith in their music. Yeah. And man, then I would go to the Christian bookstore and just any kind of $1.99 tape. I bought up everything I could, started reading CCM magazine. I dove head first because it was just, once I started listening, it really helped me grow in my faith. And it gave a voice to what I was feeling inside. Yeah. And so we just started playing. It was just the two of us, and we started playing acoustic guitars. Like I started playing guitar right after I graduated high school, and I'm not any better now, 6 years later than I was the first few months that I learned. But thankfully, all you need is 3 chords and the truth, right?
Yeah. And so you started
out just
hopping around church to church?
Yeah, any place we could go. If there was a talent show or a Sunday school class, a Wednesday night men's prayer group, anybody that would have us come sing, we would do it. Yeah. That's the greatest advice our best advice I give to young artists. And that when people are like, hey, give me some advice, what can I do? I go, do everything that you can.
I agree entirely. For me, I got into the itinerant, like speaking at 17 is when I started. Yeah. And I tell everyone, like, I just took no out of my vocabulary. I've preached in old folks' homes. I've preached in the basements of old folks' homes with crazy people fake knitting on the side, and I loved it. Honestly, it's some of the best times that I've had.
Because you learn so much, you grow so much doing that.
I used to get paid in like Chick-fil-A coupons.
Oh, praise the Lord! I'd take that now.
Yeah, I know. So would I. So as you look back, right, and you've done the big things. You've traveled the world. All that's amazing. As you look back at that time, is there anything that you ever wish you could go back to, like a heartbeat, sensitivity, simplicity? Do you miss that?
I mean, that's a great question. There are definitely things that I miss. I mean, I talk with the guys in the band. So Third Day, once again, for those people who are watching and listening who don't know, we were a band basically from around 92-ish. Mark and I had played together. It was just the two of us playing acoustic guitars and singing. And then about a year and a half, 2 years into doing that, we got a drummer and a bass player who went to church together and school together. They knew each other. So we basically stole them from another band. Yeah. Then we were a full rock band. And that started probably around end of 92, early 93. And then we lasted until 2018. We did our farewell tour. So do the math on that. I always forget.
A chunk.
Yeah, 20-something years.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in a band still. I'm not good at math. For 24, 5, 6 years, whatever that is, we had lots of great opportunities, traveling the world, doing cool stuff. But we talked, so we're doing a farewell tour, not a farewell tour. We're doing a reunion tour this spring. The spring of 26, if you're watching this years later, and we're doing 30 dates.
Okay.
And so it's the first time a lot of us, the main band has played together in 8 years, and the 4 original members in 10 years together. And so as we've gotten together to rehearse for this tour, we talk about those early days of being in the van and trailer and driving 10 hours through the night to go play for a middle school youth group in Indiana for a love offering. And it took us a couple of years to realize, middle school youth groups don't have a lot of love to offer.
No, they don't. They don't. Not at all.
It took us a while to realize that. But that's back to what we were talking about that advice is like, you just play every chance. You speak every chance you get.
Chance.
I think so many people now, they have this vision. They see a band that's successful playing in front of thousands of people, or an artist singing in front of thousands of people, and they go, well, I got, if I give it, how many years I got that question a lot. How many years have you done this? Well, when I do this 3 more years, I'll equal that. Right. And therefore I'll be where, and it doesn't work that way. The math doesn't add up that way. So I just always tell people, you have got to appreciate and love where you are.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, fast forward from where Third Day was, but rewinding from where we are now, when the band was over, I had for a long time wanted to do country music, and had people come up to me often in this 20 plus years. Hey, have you ever thought about singing country music? Your voice really fits it. So when the band was done, I went, okay, now I got a chance. Let me go. And I never thought I was going to be, some big country star. I just thought I'd love to do this musically, something different for me. And so I made a couple of country records, and I went out and toured, and I was playing in these little clubs. If there was 50 people there, it was a good night.
Is this faith-based country music, or just straight up?
No, it was just straight up. But what's interesting is like everyone in my band led worship. Yeah. So I had a bunch of worship leaders playing country music. And we would do things like we'd sing Amazing Grace to the show, and I'd share a little bit, but it wasn't a faith-based thing. It was just, let's go make some fun music and see what happens. And what's interesting is there were so many of these, clubs we would play, and the wait staff would come, somebody from the wait staff would come up, tattooed all over and piercings all over, and go, I had your Offerings worship record and I absolutely loved it. Why are you here? Thank you for playing here. Yeah. I'd have a lot of older ladies who were there with their husbands come up to me and say, thank you so much for doing this. You're playing in this club because you're in a club. Yeah. My husband would come with me, and we haven't been on a date in 2 years.
Wow.
And he would never go to a Third Day show, but he's here.
That's incredible.
Because you're here. So yeah, just cool stories like that. But getting in, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
But my point of that was like, that was not on a big bus, and that wasn't flying, to the show. That was, we're getting in the van and trailer. Yeah. and going, and it was so much fun.
Did you bring your family on that, or were
no? I didn't have room for my family.
Okay,
so no.
Do they like traveling with you?
They do now. They do now.
Earlier on, did they?
My wife did. She was on the road with us the first couple of years, and then she had our oldest. Her name is Scout, and Scout is 26 now. She was a road baby, and now she plays bass for me.
Yeah, I got to meet her. She was so sweet.
Yeah. But she, they loved it for a while, and then when there was a second child and the third child, Amy was like, "I got to stay home now." So, but now totally I get to for this Third Day tour, for example, or for the past really couple of years now, for my solo stuff. There's 8 of us in our family. There's 5 kids, me and my wife Amy. We're about to celebrate 30 years of marriage.
Congrats.
And then the son-in-law, there's 8 of us. And the past year and a half or so, 5 of the 8 of us are always out on the road together.
Wow.
And so there's more of us Powells on the road than being at home.
That's
incredible. Coming up for this Third Day tour, there's going to be 6 out of the 8 of us are on the road. So, it's fun having them.
As I'm listening to you, I'm just feeling like the correlation between at least the itinerant world, and not that I'm saying I'm successful in it, but I haven't done the worst in it, and that growing up, I'm interested to see if those early days when favor came, right, when doors start opening, I wrestle with this of like saying yes to everything, taking every opportunity. Knowing that you're building something, knowing that you're trying to be faithful and steward with what God has, but you also have family back at home.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there is a place where you can't say yes to everything.
Right. When did you find that balance? Because for me, I feel like I screwed it up. Like I left too much. Yeah. And I was traveling 230 days a year.
Well, it's interesting. Oh, that's way too much.
Thank you.
It's interesting that it's
nice to meet you too. Yeah. Anything else you want to?
It's interesting that you say, when did you find that balance?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've found it yet. I'm still looking for it.
I love that.
But, sometimes you have to do what you do. Sometimes you have to be out more.
Right.
And sometimes you got to be strong enough to say no.
Yeah.
I learned there was a baseball player that I was friends with, who taught me a lesson a few years ago. And I hope I'm kind of giving away my secret here.
Yeah, I'd give it away.
But he said, I'm not saying I've done this. Okay. He said, when he gets in places and times like that where someone asks him to do something and be part of an event or whatever, and he says, I'm so sorry, I can't do that. I have plans. And he said, my plans, he's not telling them, is to be with my family.
100%.
And so, sometimes you gotta, it's hard to say no. You're right.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I'm still learning how to say no, but I've done a better job of it, but it's something you're always working on.
Yeah. Most people I find in positions like yourself, like they're very driven. Like do you have a hard time sitting still?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. No. I love going and doing, but I'm also kind of lazy. And I'm also like a beach bum, so I could sit on a beach all day. Oh, gosh.
So you're not laying down being like, okay, what's the next move?
No,
what's the next?
No, I'm laying down. The thing that I think most about outside of the spiritual realm is when do I get to eat and when do I get to take a nap? That's really, if I'm being honest.
Did that change in the last 10 years? Or
no, it's always been like that.
Okay, so I have your road manager sitting like, yeah. Is that true?
Yes.
Wow. Not that I think you're lying.
No. I've always been lazy, and I've always been really looking for the next meal and the next chance I get to sleep.
So why do you think the Lord chose you?
I think there's some truth in what I'm about to say. I think there's it's not 100% true, but I think there's a lot of truth. I think the Lord chose me and the guys in Third Day is because he knew we needed it. He knew that I needed him to give me some responsibility and a platform, because if I didn't have that, who knows where I'd be.
Yeah.
When we started having success as a band, I tell people this often. If we had maybe a gold record and had a couple of successful tours, and that was the extent of it, I would have a lot more pride than now if that were the case. But because it went so far beyond what we knew we could work on our own, there was a point early on with Third Day we went, oh, okay, got you, Lord.
Yeah.
This ain't about us. And so I think the Lord called us as a band because he knew we needed it. We needed him to give us that responsibility, that calling to keep us.
Yeah.
Because I was scared to death. I was like, I don't want to mess this up.
Right.
The Lord's given us opportunity here. I got to be in the Word. I got to be prayed up. I got to be, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And so I think I
love that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some theologians listening and watching that can break that down somehow. But I mean, that's what I feel like is a big part of the truth.
Honestly, some of the biggest changes that I've made in my life as I've been growing or doing, doors open up, and opportunities to fail, present themselves. Yeah. That's one of the driving forces behind me. Like, I hate hypocrisy. I don't want to be a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. It's caused me to pull back from times. It's caused me to, restructure my life. As I'm listening to you speak, all I'm hearing is your wife sounds amazing.
Oh, she's super mom.
Like, that's all I'm hearing.
There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. There's no way I would be here without her. There's no way I would have success without her. She's been, we were talking about this the other day, and she's said it often through the years, but it was a reminder. We actually went to Ghana, West Africa, a couple of weeks ago. And when we were there in this remote village, a couple of remote villages in the middle of nowhere, she reminded me that when she was a senior in high school, she made a commitment to the Lord of full-time ministry.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we don't really talk about that in terms nowadays as much, but back when we were in high school and college age, that was like a big deal. It was kind of going through the church that, are you committing full-time ministry, that you're going to go anywhere, do anything the Lord calls you to? And she did that. She went forward when there was an invitation to surrender completely, not for salvation, but for here I am, Lord, send me.
Right.
And she thought that's what was going to happen. We're in Africa, and she's wearing this, Western African dress.
Shiki. Yep. Yeah.
And she said, this is where I thought I was going to be.
Wow.
And she says, I realized, it didn't take long for her to realize when we first started this thing, doing, being successful in music ministry. She said, I realized, okay, what the Lord really had for me to do was to support you and to bring up our children.
Wow.
And those things that comes with being a wife and a mother. But she said so when we were there, in the middle of that village, she said, this is what I thought it was going to be. And she was so alive because she thought this was the dream, and that's not what ended up happening. But it doesn't mean it was wrong or, bad that what happened. It just the Lord brought to her mind and her spirit, this is what I have for you.
Yeah. Wow.
And so if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. As you look back on maybe some of the tension of growth, right? Some of the tension of leaving her and the kids to go out and follow this thing that the Lord had put in front of you.
Yeah.
Are there any things you would change if you were to do it again?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I wouldn't change a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't really like to walk around with a lot of regrets.
I'm with you.
But I probably, and I think the other guys in the band in Third Day would agree, we should probably have taken more time off and more breaks. But we were just this big machine that had to keep, and it wasn't only us and our families, but all these other people that worked for us, that we felt this responsibility, to keep it going and keep families being fed.
Yeah.
And, in fact, I haven't talked about this a lot in interviews and podcasts and things, but when we ended Third Day, like, I wanted to be done long before that. I'd felt like for a good almost 5 years that I was done.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to be done. And I felt the weight of that responsibility of, okay, I'm the singer. If I'm done,
right,
the whole thing is, done. And all these people, and I was praying one day, and I can't tell you what year it was or month or whatever, but this clearly happened. I was praying, Lord, I know you want me to be done. I feel it. I know you're calling me to be done, but I don't know how to stop. And all these people are depending on me. And I remember clear as day, the Lord said, "Oh, you're their provider."
Oof.
And I went, "Touche, Lord.
Yeah.
I am not."
Yeah.
And that was such oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for telling me that. It's one of those things, but when you hear it, you go, "Oh, why am I carrying this burden?" Now I wanted to be a man of my word, and I wanted to do what I could and not just be like, "We're done. Right. Good luck." So we made some plans. It took a couple of years that we called it how to land the plane. Mm-hmm. And so we did that, but it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. And it was just such a burden lifted off of me to be able to say, okay,
that's a lot, man. It's a lot, because it's not just the band; it's all the other people that are connected.
Yeah. Well, and it's also we were still successful. It wasn't like we had reached this point where, okay, we're not at the top of the charts. I mean, there was a high season and it lasted for a long time, and maybe we weren't in that, but we were still very successful, still getting played on the radio, still big tours. And so you would think, okay, we'd be done because we crashed or whatever, or because we couldn't keep going, but it wasn't like that. It was successful. And sometimes even in success, you have to be done.
Yeah. I don't want to switch gears, but there's so much ground I want to cover, and I know your time is short. And I just want to make sure there's a couple things. One, as you have traveled around and seen a lot of the American church, global church, I'm sure you've had a very unique perspective into Christendom.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The changes, the shifts.
Yeah.
What, is there anything you've learned that, as you've met with pastors, as you've met with leaders, I'm sure you've had the opportunities to meet with really incredible leaders. Do you feel like the church is healthy? Do you feel like Christendom is healthy? Or do you feel like you've seen the dirty underbelly of the greed and
I think
scandals?
It's a great question.
How's your heart with the church?
Yeah, I love the church. Always will love the church. Yep. And does that mean the church is awesome? Not always. I mean, it's like our family.
Yeah.
There's going to be some. You got your drunk Uncle Raymond.
Yeah.
But you still love him.
Yeah.
And you get poor Aunt Martha that won't stop talking about people back behind their backs.
Yeah.
But still love her. Can they do things that are better? Of course.
Yeah.
So can I.
Yeah.
A million times over. So I love the church. I love how can I say this in the right way?
There is no wrong way.
I love the differences in churches. Yeah. I'll say the word diversity, not in the sense necessarily of skin color, because that can get a lot better, just like everything in 100%. Life. But I love that, for example, now the church that I lead worship in and have for 6 years now.
Time out. You're a worship leader at church?
Yeah. Now I'm not there full time, but when I'm able to, I lead with several other people at a church in Atlanta.
I'm hiring.
Well, if I lived closer, it's very different. I mean, the beginnings of this church. And so you walk in this church, it's beautiful. It's stained glass windows everywhere. The pastor is Dr. Michael Youssef is my pastor. He's 75 years old, I think, Egyptian, wears a suit, looks sharp. Most people who come to the church, I'm a fairly young person in the church.
Amazing.
And, most people dress nice. So it's very different than the 20 years before I was there. I was at, almost, they want to be charismatic church.
Yeah.
And so I went that church for 20 years. So clearly I loved it, but I love the church I'm in now, which is very, very different.
Yeah.
Now there's some similarities in that they preach the word.
Yep.
They love to worship. But in other ways they're very different. So that's, I think, back to your original question, is I love the church. The church is always going to be a little sick.
Yeah. The bride of Christ has back knee. That's kind of, you know what I'm saying? She's got some bow legs. And,
but she's still beautiful.
Her nose is crooked.
Yeah. Still beautiful.
Jesus loves his bride.
Yeah. And therefore I do. Not because I'm great, because because he does.
It's really rare to see people that have served like the larger Christian community, which I would say you have. You know, you've ministered to Christians all over the world, to come out saying that. In fact, I find most artists, they run away from the church.
I got no fingers to point, man. I got enough junk in my life. I ain't got time to point fingers at anybody else, you know. So I'm thankful for God's grace and that he allows me to still be part of the church.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, switching gears again. When I saw you live last year, and we got to meet for the first time. By the way, thank you so much for the little bit of time that we got to hang out. It was awesome. It made my year. You mentioned something, and I left the concert with a book, and it was on art.
Oh yeah, my book, The Soul Shines Through. Yeah.
Yes. Warhol, Van Gogh.
Yeah.
And there was two other artists whose names.
Yeah, Marc Chagall and Picasso.
Okay, so my parents are artists. I grew up going to museums.
Okay, great.
I don't know how to throw a ball.
See, I did the opposite.
Yeah?
I grew up playing baseball, not going to a museum, didn't know anything about art at all. I'm from Alabama, man.
Yeah. So what got you? In fact, that was like one of my favorite parts. I was like, oh, he digs art.
Yeah.
Warhol, Van Gogh, they never became Christian artists.
Right.
You kind of dug this up on your journey. I'm so grateful that they never became Christian artists.
Yeah.
As you've grown up in the arts, right? And now you appreciate the arts. Talk to me about becoming a Christian artist. And yesterday, Mike Vogel, he's an actor. He's star of The Case for Christ. I sat with him here yesterday, and we had the discussion of why did you never go become a Christian actor? Right. How, like, talk to me about art and a Christian art, because I think what's the difference? Is there a difference?
Well, I think for me, there's not a difference. I think when you are, this is for me personally.
I love it.
I think when you are a believer and the Lord has gifted you, whether it's to paint or to speak or sing or knit, whatever it is, you do that for his glory.
Yeah.
And you don't have to necessarily, if knitting is your gifting, you don't have to, knit a Jesus pillow or whatever rug. So you're going to give God glory, and we're his children. And so just like our kids, when they have something they made at school, we want to put it up on the fridge. The Lord is glorified in us using the talents he's given us. I don't think everybody sees it that way. No. And I understand that. I get it. I'm actually glad. I think there are people who feel like there shouldn't be Christian music. There should just be music.
Right.
But I'm actually glad there's categories, because I know there are times in my life when I go, I want to hear a worship song, or I want to hear a song about someone who's struggled with their faith and it's a rock song, whatever. That I can go to that category. If you go into a bookstore and you're wanting to find a book about World War II, if there were no labels, you'd be mad.
Yeah.
You go, it's going to take me a long time to find the book I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's a reason for labels. And so I have no problem with there being a category of Christian music for that reason.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
What about worship music? And do you see a difference?
Well, I think it's all how you depend on it. If you're standing at the Grand Canyon, you can look out and go, wow, that's a beautiful picture. Or you can go, there's a difference in that and saying, wow, look what God has done. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes I hear a song. I heard a song the other day, this country song. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't say God. In fact, there were a couple of places I was like, oh, they could have said God here, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And it's still, I heard that song. I was like, thank you, Lord, for that message. Thank you for that. Man, I'm tearing up, and it's pierced my heart.
Yeah.
But didn't have to mention Jesus. And so I think it's all beauty, and what is all in the eye of the beholder or the listener.
Yeah.
So you can hear all kinds of music and be encouraged by it.
I mean, even the rocks cry out. What is it? Whether I'm in the heights of the heavens or the depths of Sheol, you are there, right? Like his presence is everywhere. Absolutely. But there is it's funny, like I've had like Brian from Korn.
Yeah.
He's a good friend. He's sat here.
Yeah.
And to hear his view is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I will go to his shows and hang out with him. And do you know who Stephanie Gretzinger is? She's a worship leader. Yes, She's sat here.
Yeah.
And to hear her take, I like your perspective because you've lived in all of it. It's like you've done worship, you've done country, you've done Christian.
Yeah, just straight up rock. I mean, we had several songs that were on college rock radio.
Yeah.
And so I like it all.
I love your perspective on all of it. So talk to me about artists, paintings.
Yes.
Do you paint?
No, gosh, no. I wish I did.
Yeah.
Many people, because of the book that I wrote with a friend of mine from Indianapolis, it's such a great story. We should write a book on the story of how we met on a plane. And he's a few years older than I am, and he's a businessman. He's wearing a suit. And what's interesting is we get on a plane, and he says, "Hey, I noticed you put the guitar up. You play music?" And I go, "Here we go. Now I got to go through the whole story." And so we started talking, and he's like, eventually I'm in a band called Third Day. He's like, "You're in Third Day? Look." And he pulled out his phone, and like in his recents of what he listened to, this is like May or something. Yeah. And he's listening to the Third Day Christmas record.
Come on.
He says, "My family listens to your Christmas record like throughout the whole year." And so what's interesting, as we became friends later on, he said every time he gets on a plane, this is a businessman in mainstream business, but strong believer. He said, whenever I get on a plane, I pray, "Lord, give me someone beside me that I can talk to and I can share with." And I told him, it's interesting because when I get on a plane, I go, "Lord, please make the person beside me not talk to me." And we see whose prayers got answered more. It was Keith's. But I had this idea for a book, and he's written several books. He works in self-publishing. And I said, man, I got this idea for a book, but I always swore I would never, ever write a book. Because when I have friends who write books and they say, "Hey, will you give me an endorsement, write 3 sentences, I'll put it on the back of the book," or whatever, it takes me 45 minutes to write 3 sentences. Yeah. So I say to myself, if it takes me this long to write 3 sentences, I can never write a book. Yeah. But I said, I want to write a book about some painters, famous painters, artists, and how religion or faith affected their art. Yeah. And so because of his help, I did most of the research. That's the fun part of going out and reading. I read several books on every artist, underlining stuff, taking notes, sending it to him, and then he would put a draft, and then I go, but let's say this, and moving around. So we wrote it together genuinely. But people, because of that book, people often ask, as you did, wouldn't you love to learn to paint? And I say, I love artists and looking at art. Yeah. But I would rather spend my time doing that and studying it more and observing it more than trying to learn how to paint. So it's like people who are musicians. If you love music, there's a lot of people who love music 1,000 times more than I do, but they're not going to write a song and they're not going to start a band because they'd rather enjoy the music. And so that's the way I am with art.
I love it. You are you familiar with Calder, the sculptor? Famous sculptor, large. Okay. No. I actually had some original Calder piece. We have some original Calder pieces. Mm-hmm. He was kind of a famous, he did large installation pieces. So like mobiles, fairly well known in the sculptor realm. The only reason I know is because my dad got his master's in sculpture and I grew up around it.
That's right.
I wanted to try to bring in 2 pieces, original Calders, because my parents were neighbors with him growing up as little kids. He would come over to like my grandparents' dinner parties and with like a spool of wire and like create things and give them. So we have a couple of original pieces, and I was going to see if I could give one to you.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. But you didn't.
They're in Mississippi. I just found this out today.
Hey, I can get my address to you quickly.
There's something very, I don't know if my family, I think my sister's hoarding them for the inheritance. But there's a couple things you never do. You never give people art. It's very personal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to break that rule.
Okay.
And I have something for you.
Wow.
If it's okay.
Of course.
You can hate it.
Is it a piece of yours? Did you make something?
No. This is after Calder, who's one of the original ones. I have an original Bruce Herman. Now, Bruce Herman he's an artist. He's a current artist, Christian artist. Are you familiar with Gordon Conwell Seminary?
No.
It's
the seminary. Yeah.
So I'm from Massachusetts originally. He was one of the professors of art there. I grew up going to Bruce Herman's house, and so my father, we were good friends with him. I used to grow up in his studio, like just walking around his studio. Since I was a little kid, he's become very well known in like the Christian art world, even though he wouldn't think of himself that way. And if it's okay, I'd like to give you one of his original pieces.
That's fantastic.
And you might not like it. If you don't, I'll take it back.
I know I'll love it.
And
you have it with you now?
I do. I have it with me. You don't have to like this. I was like debating whether I did this or not. So this is Christ on the cross.
Wow.
And this is one of 100, and it says finished for Murray. That's my father, Bruce Herman. So there's only 100 of these, and this one he personally made for my father.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Your art has blessed me.
No, I love it. Thank you.
It is. I have another one of his prints, a larger one. Your art has blessed my life.
Thank you.
I'm sitting there trying to think of what can I do for you. You have blessed my life. You have encouraged me. I legitimately have had like really deep encounters with the Lord with Agnes Day playing in the background. Yeah. And I know this might not be a lot, but it is something that I've cherished that I've had in my home, in my parents' home for years. And I can't think of a better person to give it to.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for what you do, the art that you create. How are we doing on time? I want to make sure
we're good.
Are we good?
We're good
time?
now. We're good now that I've got this gift.
Bruce,
can I tell you this?
You can tell me anything.
First of all, I love it. It's beautiful. And I mean this with all my heart. This is one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. I'm not lying. Thank you. This means a lot to me.
Why?
Well, because I love art.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a beautiful piece. Second of all, third of all, that it's for your family and for you, and you're giving it to me. That means so much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not lying. One of the greatest gifts I've ever received.
Bruce Herman, and listen, I don't care about the podcast. Bruce Herman is he's just a brilliant artist. I would encourage you to look up some of his stuff. Yeah. He's fantastic.
H-E-R or H-U-R?
H-O-E-R-M-A-N. Yeah. And he's done work all over the world. Amazing. But this is one of his earlier pieces. His stuff now with colors is just incredible. I have behind my desk, I have a massive copper print that he made. And, you know, they make the print out of copper and then they stamp it and do X amount. Yeah. But their house, which is where his studio was, caught on fire, burnt down years ago. And because of the relationship he had with my family, they modeled their new house after the house that I grew up in. And New England is like, my parents were like hippie dippy artists, right? And so, growing up in New England, I was surrounded by that culture. And it's not until years later, I was like, wow, I actually grew up around some juggernauts that I never knew.
Right. So what about you as an artist?
Yeah.
Tell me about, you do anything? Paint or sculpt or?
Well, growing up, I did some photography. So I was in the dark room. So I got saved at 17. I was a drug addict. I was a cutter, suicidal. I kind of like did the rebellious thing from about 12 to 17. And then at 17, I was failing everything, like failing school, hated my life. And at 17, I walked into the basement of this teeny little Assemblies of God church. There was about 60 people there. And immediately I knew that I didn't want to be there anymore. I was like, what am I doing? I brought my camera because I wanted to get some like Pentecostal photos. So I grew up around it. My mom was part of like a glow.
Yeah.
And so I grew up around it, bunch of freaks, bunch of weirdos, tongues and all the things. And yeah, I heard they had a guest speaker. His name was Bob, and he was one of the worst preachers. I ended up traveling with this man later on in my life. He was one of the worst preachers. He was an ex-fisherman from Galilee, Rhode Island. And as he's speaking, he said, Jesus loves you, which is something that I'd heard growing up every day. And when he said it,
You believed it.
More. I physically felt love fill me up. And it's hard to explain, like most things, and most of those personal encounters with the Lord are very hard to explain. But I felt love, acceptance, peace, joy, hope for the first time. And God became undeniable. And then he said, not only does he love you, but he wants to use you. I'd never heard that. I grew up in kind of more of like a Calvinist cessationist. Yeah. So Dr. Greg Beale, he's one of the foremost theologians in the book of Revelation. And Dr. Gordon Hugenberger, they were pastors at my teeny little congregational white steeple church in Gloucester, Massachusetts. It's an island north of Boston. They all attended or were, professors and leaders at Gordon Conwell Seminary, but they would lead this church on Sunday. So I was surrounded by some of the brightest minds, theological. I didn't know any of this at the time. I'm just a punk kid trying to get weed on the weekends. and so I'd grown up around great teaching, beautiful Christian people, but really no understanding for the power of God outside of what you receive through the Word. And love them. They're brothers and sisters. Absolutely love them. I'm where I'm at because of these people. I would not trade any of it. But after I had this encounter with the Lord, everything changed in a moment. Darkness, suicide left, addiction left. And that night, he said, not only does he love you, but he wants to use you. Not only does he want to use you, but he's going to do it tonight. This is what the preacher said as I'm on the ground just weeping. That night I went into ministry.
Wow.
Fast forward 6 months, I moved to Paraguay. I failed Spanish 3 times in high school. I moved to Paraguay and saw the Lord move in Paraguay. No joke. The first time I was invited to Paraguay, I said, I've always wanted to go to Africa. Like, that's how much I failed at school. And I moved to Paraguay, and I began to start just praying for the sick. And I don't know where you stand with this, but I can't deny it. It's what happened. I ended up praying for a kid who was in a coma in a hospital in Paraguay. They were pulling the plug that day. The father called me up. He knew I was a missionary. Pray for my son. And prayed for his son. And the doctors came running in and kicked us out. And so I was driving home back to where I was staying in Paraguay, weeping. And the phone rings, and the father says he sat up after you left, and that changed. That moment really changed my life forever. The next thing I knew, I was invited into the White House of Paraguay. The president's wife had heard about it. She had a friend with cancer, and at 17, I was sitting in the White House of Paraguay with all the dignitaries, their wives. And I just began to watch God move, and it changed me forever. And so, it's been 26 years. I've been going nonstop, really just obedient. You asked me what art have I gotten here? What's my creativity? I never really had the bug, but I have that passion that I see in my parents and other artists for whatever craft God's given them. Yeah. For me, that passion has manifested in laying my life down and serving the poor and obedience, I guess, is what I would say my art is, which is a weird thing to say. I've never said it that way, but
no, but it's sacrifice, just like a painter or sculptor or whatever. There's sacrifice. Yeah. There's, growing in that art.
Yeah. You get it. So Yeah, 17. I've been going nonstop, and which Paraguay led me back to the States, and then I moved to Mozambique when I was 22. Just married, fresh married with my Paraguayan wife, and we moved out to Paraguay and pioneered with the Macu and the Macondi with a woman named Heidi Baker up in northern Mozambique. Started preaching to the lost, and had 2 kids out there on the field. And I don't want to bore you with my story.
Yeah, that's a boring story that the Lord, takes you to Paraguay and then to Mozambique, and that's not boring at all.
It's I think,
and brings healing to a little kid that everyone thinks is about to die.
Listen, it shocked me as much as anyone else, and I still feel the same way when I watch the Lord move today.
What's next? What's next for you? Those are big things in life. So well,
these guys know what I do, so but they don't know this, and I guess I will reveal it here.
You have to. I asked the question.
I'm pregnant. No, I was just asked to step in as lead pastor of Paytonsville Church here and that's only a month and a half. I've been here serving for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Because I'm not busy enough with what I do.
Congratulations.
So that is what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when my head hits the pillow, like I just got back from Brazil. I was in a stadium of 60, 80,000 people, right? Preaching, watching the Lord move. I have that. I've done those things over the years. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't fulfill me anymore.
Yeah.
Like that was the pinnacle.
Right.
As I was like laying in bed at 18, 19, Lord, would you ever, could I preach to 1,000 people?
Yes.
I'm sure it's similar. Like when you started music.
And it's what I was sharing with you earlier is that when artists, there's so many people that I've come across who, when I was talking about, they go, how long have you been doing this? Okay, well, I've been doing it for 5 years. So when I reach that amount of time, I'll be here. And you have to enjoy where you are.
Yeah.
And for you to be excited about the next step of your life is to lead this church.
Yeah.
Forever, how long that is. Year, 20 years.
I'm open-handed.
That's exactly. Yeah. And that you're not going, oh, can I do a few more of those stadiums that are packed full of 60, 80,000 people? The Lord's going to be faithful in continuing to give you those opportunities, but you don't need those opportunities. You're not even necessarily wanting those opportunities. They're cool when they happen.
They're great.
It's the same for me. I tell people I'm kind of an artist that gets to go do my own thing to a much smaller level. When I go do my solo tours, there's, some nights there's 700, 800 people. Sometimes there's 1,200, but, much smaller than what Third Day played to. And then I'll get to go on tours with opening up for bigger artists and these multiple artist tours those are my favorite when you're with other artists.
Right.
And you're in front of 10,000 people and I'll go ahead and say it. So someone who lives right down the road from here, Toby Mac he's probably the most famous person in Christian music the past 15 years. Still, he's older than me and still at the top of his game, doing amazing. And he's an amazing person. But I was on tour with him. He does a tour called Hits Deep. It's several artists and he closes the night we've toured together many times through the years, and he is definitely one of my favorite people, just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
But I'm side stage watching him. This is 2 years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. And he's closing out this night with 10,000 people and just rocking it, just doing an amazing job. People are loving it. People are worshiping the Lord. And my manager and booking agent were right beside me. And I said, I hate to tell you guys, but I'm not at all going, got to get back to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in me that goes, I gotta work hard to get back to that where I'm the main artist in front of this arena full of people. Now, thankfully I can say that part of it is not because of its humility or whatever, or being mature. Part of it is I've gotten to do that.
You've been there.
So if I've never been able to do that, it might be a different story. But I said, it's a great place to be, where you can do a stadium full of 60, 80,000 people and you're preaching to them, but you're not saying, this is what I got to keep doing.
No.
So I'm side stage going, this is awesome. I love being part of this night. But when I get to go play in front of 700 people at this little church down the street, that's going to be amazing as well.
Yeah. One of the principles that I've tried to just live my life out is obedience. If you love me, you'll obey what I command, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, who the world cannot understand. The world constantly tells us to grow, go big, and I get that. I love that. I appreciate people that have done that.
You're in America. You should love that.
Right. But at the end of the day, like, I just want to be obedient. And sometimes obedience looks like taking a church, which I was not expecting. But it's what I get to do. Yeah. Listen, you go
through the doors that are open for you.
Yeah. Well, we have 5,000 churches around the world as like the organization Iris that I work with. And so we're not short on churches. We're not short on stuff, but I just try to be obedient.
Yeah.
Like, that's at the end of the day, I feel like that's what I'm going to be responsible for when I stand in front of the Lord.
I can't wait to see what happens, man.
Oh, dude, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time, and I know you have to be somewhere pretty soon. So, is there any questions that you wish I would have asked you?
No.
Okay. Then let me say this. First of all, thank you for coming. It's just a pleasure. And anytime you're in the area,
thank you.
And you want to come back, please. I'll promote whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
What's coming up next? How can people connect? How can people tie in with what you are doing? So
I don't know when this gets released or when someone is
soon.
Listening or watching it, but in the spring of this year of 26. So mid-March to mid-May, we do the 30th anniversary tour of Third. That's 30 years of Third Day music. Even though we haven't been together for 30 years, our first record got released 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Basically now.
Yeah.
And so we're doing 30 dates. Excited about that, and excited to get back with my brothers who, we had an amazing season that the Lord gave us with Third Day, and now we get to go share those songs together and with a bunch of people. And so that's the next thing for me, and what's after that, who knows, but all in hopes of continuing to do what you say, just be obedient to the Lord. And
awesome.
It's seek first his kingdom.
Yep.
Everything else will be put into place.
I love that. What about your book, merch? Oh,
yeah.
I forgot.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I totally forgot.
Where did you find that?
Listen, I know people that have garages full of
that's
stuff.
Hilarious. That's an old school Third Day shirt.
Yeah,
we had a song called Alien.
Oh yeah.
The scripture says, the God says to look after the orphans and the widows and the aliens. And so we wrote a song called Alien. Sure. I don't think he necessarily meant that, like a UFO alien, but them too.
It's perfect. But it's prophetic.
You could get a lot of money for that shirt.
Or I can just keep it.
You could.
Yeah.
Or you get probably up to $50 for that shirt.
Listen, if this ministry thing doesn't work out,
you know what to do.
I'm going to hit this. I'll throw this up on eBay. What about, I also have one of your old tour bags.
Oh, wow.
I do.
Okay.
$100 on eBay?
Well, not for me. I got plenty of them in the closet, but somebody else will.
I love it. I love it. The shooties who are sitting off camera have become very dear friends of my family. And I got connections.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. But if they want to buy your book, or any of your other stuff, where can they go?
Go to macpowell.com.
Cool.
You can go to Amazon to get the book. It's called The Soul Shines Through.
Yeah.
And
I learned a lot. Listen, I've been around artists and heard stuff growing up. Yeah. There was things that I never heard that Warhol had fake
and that's the thing in the book. We're not trying to make people out to be like these super Christians. They weren't. No. But there was clearly there was an influence on their lives from the church, from religion. Marc Chagall was Jewish, so he wasn't a Christian. He was Jewish, and yet he painted so many scenes of Christ on the cross. Mm-hmm. And so why did he do that? What was the influence? If you read the book, then you'll figure out and you'll find out why. My favorite story in the book, I know we're done.
No, you're fine. We do whatever.
Vincent van Gogh, a lot of people don't know this. This is really what, well, you asked me earlier, I never got to telling you the answer about how I got involved in art. Mm-hmm. I was on a plane and going to do a gig, and I got out the little Sky Miles magazine. I'm just thumbing through it, and there was a little 2-paragraph, it wasn't even it was like just a little box story about Vincent van Gogh. I didn't know anything about Vincent van Gogh. I said, I think that's the crazy dude who cut his ear off, I think. And so I said, what's this about? And in this little 2-paragraph story about Vincent, it said that his father and his grandfather were both pastors. Yeah. He wanted to follow in their footsteps. And so he went to seminary. He was Dutch, lived in the Netherlands. Yeah. He went to Belgium, which is the next country over, to go to seminary. As he was going to seminary, he became a missionary in this little small coal mining town. And he sold everything that he owned to serve these people in the town. And the people who ran the seminary, it was kind of an uppity church seminary, they kicked him out because they thought he was crazy. Yeah. You can't do that. You're selling everything you have and giving it away to the poor. So they kicked him out of the seminary, and it broke his heart. They asked him to leave. He couldn't be a missionary anymore. He wasn't going to become a pastor, so he didn't know what he was going to do. Mm. And his brother Theo sold paintings in Paris. And Theo said, hey, when you were younger, you painted a little bit. Why don't you try to do that? I'll try to sell your paintings. Yeah. And I'd like to say that he had a great life from then on out, but he didn't. He had a hard life. He sold one painting while he was alive, one painting. And
really?
One painting. That's all he sold. And he, wanted, as I said, he loved the Lord. He loved, and he never disavowed his faith. He did some, bad stuff, made some bad decisions, as we all do, but he never said that he didn't believe in God anymore. And unfortunately, he died thinking that he was a failure. Mm. And I've shared this message lots of times with people, with my audience, just to tell them, look, you have no idea. So God took this guy who sold one painting his whole life, and a few years later, not long, but a few years later, he became arguably the most famous painter who ever lived. Yeah. He had no idea. Yeah. He had no idea that was going to happen. And so I encourage people, man, you may think like you're a failure. You may think that what you do hasn't amounted to much and that you're not going to amount to much. You have no idea what God can do through you. No idea in just a short couple of years, a few years, where God can take you and how he can encourage you and in turn, so many people.
Come on. Listen, I say we ended on that.
Amen.
That's incredible. Mac.
Will, thank you.
Seriously, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Honestly, it means the world to me.
This is an amazing gift. Thank you so much.
Be blessed. Enjoy it. And thank you. I hope your time here goes amazing. And if you're ever looking for a gig, you can always come and
keep a microphone warmed up.
Yeah, if Atlanta doesn't work well for you, you just give me a call.
I'll do that.
Mac, thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, do the things, go see him on tour. 30 years. Great. Buy the books, do all the stuff. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next episode of the Iris Global Green Room.
This is really